Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another edition of Muslim Skeptic Live. I'm going to be your host, Daniel Haqiqatjou, and today we're going to talk about some very interesting topics, inshallah. If you noticed or have been following my social media channels and website, Muslim Skeptic Live, we released a report yesterday on some very disturbing activity that's happening in the Muslim community, things that are being accepted and increasingly promoted, and individuals that are involved with things that on some level are unspeakable, but we have to speak about these things because it's just getting out of hand. And the main question that I'd like everyone to focus on is, how did we get to this point? How did we really as a community get to this point where you have figures who are leading Islamic, quote unquote, Islamic organizations, are invited to conferences, are being awarded community service, Muslim community service awards. They're being praised by imams and by scholars. Yet these are the same individuals that promote the most extreme forms of feminism, that promote the most extreme forms of LGBT acceptance. And the entire LGBT agenda is extreme, as we know from the Quran, as we know what this kind of behavior entails and what that culture entails, as we've discussed before. So you have these individuals, on the one hand, they want to promote LGBT, feminism, secularism, liberalism, and then on the other hand, they want to present themselves to the mainstream Muslim community as perfectly orthodox, as perfectly traditional Muslims who can go to the masjid and stand on the minbar, or go to the conventions and stand and speak about Islam as Islamic authorities or even so-called scholars. This is what has been happening. So we want to look at a very disturbing example of this and just elaborate what I'm talking about with specific examples. But before I continue, I just want to check everyone's comments to make sure the sound is okay. Okay. Okay, now I've added some moderators who can hopefully moderate the chat and keep it focused, inshallah. And okay. Yeah, so I see Sheikh Rami Nasur is already in the comments, so don't worry, we'll address your points, bro. Okay. So what is this report about? Muslim Skeptic, just go to muslimskeptic.com, and it's right now it's the featured article. But you can also go later on, if you're watching this later, you can just search for Ingrid Mattson on muslimskeptic.com. Just use the search feature, and you should be able to find it pretty easily. So this report is looking at this figure of Ingrid Mattson. Who is Ingrid Mattson? If you're not in North America, you might not be aware of her. She is often billed as an Islamic scholar. She's a convert to Islam. She served as the president of the Islamic Society of North America, which for a long time was one of the main umbrella organizations for the Muslim community in North America, the US and Canada. And I mean, it's fallen off a lot since its heyday, but quite a big and influential organization back in the day, especially after 9/11. And so she was the vice president, and then she became the president of ISNA. And the thing with Ingrid Mattson is that she is seen as an academic, but for some reason, she's also seen as this kind of Islamic scholar. But what I've noticed is that people are not really combining the two worlds. And this is very important. You can't just look at one world, okay? What a speaker will say in the masjid in front of conservative Muslims, and ignore what that person says when he or she is speaking to non-Muslims, or when he or she is speaking in the university setting, or in an activist group or protest or whatever. Okay, you can't really separate these a person into these two different aspects. Of course, there's going to be a difference in tone. There's going to be a difference in content when someone speaks in front of non-Muslims versus Muslims. That's natural. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you present yourself as orthodox to the Muslim community, but then when you're in front of non-Muslims or you're in an academic setting, you're actually attacking Orthodox Islam. You're attacking the Islamic tradition. You are promoting things that are clear-cut contrary to Islam, and there's no difference of agreement. There is no ikhtilaf. Like on this issue of LGBT, or on the issue of participating in kufr rituals, or on the issue of promoting female imams, right? And the imam leading a jama'ah at the masjid or for Salatul Jumu'ah can be a woman, okay? So you have people who will promote that in their academic setting, and they'll promote that in front of activists and non-Muslims, but then they also want to come on the minbar and, you know, subhanallah, mashallah, sheikh or sheikha in some of these cases. They want to be called with these honorific titles and treated with that kind of respect. The problem is that Muslims in the masjid will not necessarily know, they won't recognize or realize exactly this double life that's being played. And this is deceptive, it's dishonest, and it's also what I consider to be infiltration. Okay, infiltration. What does infiltration mean? When you have ideas or even individuals who don't have the best interests of the Muslim community at heart, but they are positioning themselves as representatives of the Muslim community. They are positioning themselves as representatives, and they're bringing these ideas and making those ideas seem like they're Islamically acceptable. This is infiltration, and if it happens and it goes unchecked, then it has the potential to destroy the Muslim community. It has the potential to absolutely devastate the community in both dunyawi terms and also in terms of iman. I'll give you a very simple example. Imagine that you are at the masjid and a speaker is brought in by the board of the masjid, and this speaker says that, you know, I think that it's permissible for Muslims to sell alcohol. It's permissible, and this is something that we should not have a problem with, selling alcohol. Or you have a speaker who comes and says that, you know, this issue of dating, we need to be much more flexible when it comes to dating the opposite sex in Islam. And really, as long as you don't engage in the actual zina, you just are on a date, right? You are there with the opposite sex over a meal, and you chat and you have a good time. You enjoy each other's company, but no zina. No zina at all. You have a speaker that is spouting this nonsense, right? And then you are in the audience. What are you supposed to do? Now, I'm not saying that you should be disruptive or that you should attack anyone or any kind of violence, but you should certainly make your disapproval known. Okay? You have to make your disapproval very clear and unambiguous. If you don't, as a community member, and if others in the community also stay silent, then that means that this speaker has really infiltrated the community and introduced an idea that can do great amount of harm, because basically he is introducing zina and the gateway to zina, and even the gateway to zina is unacceptable. Allah says, "La taqrabu zina," do not even approach, do not even get close to zina. So any avenue towards zina, towards unlawful sexual intercourse, any avenue towards that is blocked and is impermissible. So there's no such thing as dating in Islam, or there's no such thing as selling alcohol. There's no such thing as LGBT acceptance. There's no such thing as going and holding hands with Christians and having a group prayer at a church or at some other religious venue or whatever. There's none of that. But if you have these figures who are going to introduce that and speak to that, and then there is no response, there is no response to come out and make clear that this is unacceptable, then that's how normalization happens. And these speakers, in fact, are hoping, right? They are hoping that you are not going to say anything. Okay? In fact, they're daring you. They are daring you to open your mouth and oppose their authority. Okay? So this is very dangerous. This is very dangerous. And this is how you get to a point where the president of the Islamic Society of North America, this large umbrella organization that involves and works with and associates with many other Muslim organizations throughout the country, the president of that can openly support LGBT doctrine, openly support all kinds of feminist, extreme feminist batil. Shamelessly, just shamelessly, not even going to the most minimal extent to hide it. So how do we get to this point? That is the question that we want to address in Muslim Skeptic Live. You know, right now when it comes to American society, right now what's in the news is the election. You have a big dispute happening in the elections. You have Donald Trump disputing the practices, whatever happened with at voting at the polls, accusations of fraud. So those are things that are going to court, and a lot of things are happening that's causing chaos, and there's a lot of confusion. Increasingly, we live in a world that there is confusion and a lot of deep and abiding conflict. And unfortunately, the Muslim community is not immune from these kinds of conflicts and confusion. And the question of who is an authority who can speak on behalf of Muslims, it's a question that we can answer. We can answer. Whoever is following the Quran and Sunnah, whoever is abiding by the Quran and Sunnah can speak and represent Muslims, and they have to be upright and they have to have these kinds of qualities. But someone who openly violates the clear values and principles of Islam cannot be taken as a leader, cannot be taken as a representative. And if we stay silent, then we will get to a position where our leaders are really the worst of Muslims. Our leaders and even the imams that are speaking and they attach themselves this title of scholar, they will be the worst of Muslims. They will be the most corrupt of Muslims. They will be the ones who are propagating the most kufr of the Muslims. So this situation can only happen with your consent. And yes, I'm speaking to each of you watching, that it's up to you. You have to decide if this is acceptable. And part of it requires information. You have to know what they're doing. So when there are these people who are coming to your masjid, or they're coming to your community, or maybe you just see them on social media being promoted. You see them being promoted. Just do a little bit of homework. Just do a little bit of background and see what comes up. It's not really complicated. When we put out these reports in Muslim Skeptic, it takes hours of research. It takes weeks, okay, weeks and months. Okay? With this report that we just published, it's really, we've been working on parts of it since all the way back in January of 2020. So it's been in the works for quite a long time. Many hours involved from myself and others and the team. So you don't have to do hours and hours of research. We have the report here. You can read it. You can go to the links that we provide, all public sources, and verify. But you can also do your own independent research. Just go to the search bar. The search engine is a very powerful tool. Okay, it can be used for good and evil. Use it for good. Go to Google, go to Facebook search, go to Twitter search. Put in the person's handle, their profile name, their username, and search certain keywords. Okay, search certain keywords and see what comes up. Search LGBT, search counter-radicalization, search prevent or CVE, search for the person's name and other types of organizations or governmental agencies, depending on what country you're in. Right? Look for feminism. Look for any of these kinds of terms, and you'll be able to get results. And that's like the beginning. That's the very beginning of the kind of research that you can do. But if people would do that, then a figure like Ingrid Mattson, open promoter of fahisha, would not be anywhere near the position that she's in. The reality is that the community knows what's right and wrong. We know what's right and wrong, and they will be shocked to know about what Ingrid Mattson is involved with and her organization that she's been promoting. They'll be shocked to find out. As soon as they find out, they're going to boycott her, and they won't want anything to do with her, inshallah. So it's just a matter of spreading the word, spreading information. And this is part of Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahi anil Munkar. If you're going to enjoin good and forbid evil, then this is the minimum that you can do, practically speaking. Practically. Of course, you can hate it in your heart. You can hate evil in your heart, but it doesn't cost you much to speak out and say, this is wrong. This we oppose. A person who is going to promote these ideologies cannot be the president of our Islamic organizations. A person who promotes this cannot be featured on our website and called a scholar, right? A person who is into these issues cannot be on our panel, and I'm not going to go speak on the panel with such a person, right? These kinds of boycotts are done for all kinds of other people, right? For the wrong reasons. For the wrong reasons. I mentioned one in this past week in Canada. There's an imam, and you can look at my Facebook page and also Twitter to see the whole story. But basically, there's an imam who, in his khutbah, he spoke out on this issue of boycotting France, and he said we need to boycott France. And then he specifically said that the French teacher that was provoking Muslims and was showing these ugly representations of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was beheaded. Okay, it is claimed that he's beheaded. This is what they claim. This person is evil. This is an evil person. Okay? And that's something that is clear as day. Okay? Someone who is insulting the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, attacking the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is an evil person, no doubt about it. And this imam, the sheikh, made this statement in his khutbah, and all of this Canadian media, Zionist, especially Zionist media, propagated it and made it seem like this imam was advocating violence, when in reality he, in his khutbah, denounced, in the sense of saying that no, Muslims have to be calm, we should not resort to violating the law, we should not violate the law. He made it very clear to de-escalate the situation. But that part of his khutbah was cut off. They focused on him calling this French teacher evil. Then you had one Muslim speaker with Al-Maghrib Institute, Navaid Aziz, come out, and he sided with these Zionists. He sided with this non-Muslim media attacking the imam, and he said that, you know, this guy is irrelevant. He made some comments about his masjid, and the masjid is irrelevant, or it needs to be shut down, or something like this. You can look at the post on my Twitter feed or Facebook to see the exact wording that he used. But just despicable. Like, you throw your Muslim brother under the bus for a completely valid statement, not only valid, praiseworthy. This imam should be praised. This imam should be praised for what he's saying, defending Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But instead, you throw him under the bus and you say, oh, he's irrelevant, he's this and that. This is shameful. This is absolutely shameful. But the point is that people are willing to boycott, okay, based on what is popular culturally. Okay, this Navaid, he's boycotting the imam and saying he's irrelevant and bashing him on the basis of the standards of kuffar, based on the standards and the sensibilities and the objections of kuffar. But when it comes to Islamic principles, violations of Islamic principles, you're silent. Where is your accusation against people who are violating Islam very openly? Where is your, tweet about that? Where is your speaking of the haqq in that situation? No, you're silent. You keep your mouth shut in that case. That would just be causing fitna. That would just be, what are these kinds of excuses that they use to say stay silent? Oh, we have husn al-dhan. We have husn al-dhan. No, there's no husn al-dhan. This is a misapplication of husn al-dhan. Husn al-dhan is not based on someone who is openly going out and brazenly spreading batil, brazenly spreading fahisha, and doing it under the title of sheikha or scholar or imam. There's no husn al-dhan. It's apparent, it's obvious what they're saying and what they're promoting and who they're associating with and how they're infiltrating the community. It's obvious. There's no husn al-dhan in that case. You have to speak out. You have to make it known that this is unacceptable. And if you don't do that, then the obvious result is you're going to get a situation where the Muslim community is completely infiltrated, and these agents of fahisha, these agents of batil, and sometimes outright kufr, are now the authorities. Now they're the representatives of the Muslim community. So what will our state be then? So let's look at this report. So Ingrid Mattson is really the person that is being focused on in this report, but it's regarding her organization, Heart Women and Girls. In 2018, Muslim Skeptic put out a big report on their activities. Now we wanted to provide an update, because when that report went out in 2018, alhamdulillah, we saw a lot of organizations and masajid completely disassociate from Heart. Alhamdulillah, that was great. But Heart became bolder ironically. You'd expect them to learn their lesson and realize that they shouldn't be continuing down this path. But they got worse and bolder in the sense that they stopped even hiding it. Post after post about LGBT and I'm Muslim and gay, I'm Muslim and transgender, I'm Muslim and bisexual. This is what they continue to do. Before, for example, we in our report for Muslim Skeptic, we looked at certain documentation that they were delivering to different masajid, and they do this on the cover of, under the guise of sexual education, right? Muslims need to know about sexual education. Muslims need to understand basics about safe sex and so forth. And we're not saying go out and commit zina. We're not saying that outright. I mean, it's up to you. That's your choice, and we don't judge. But every Muslim needs to know about healthy sex. So they portray themselves as a health education organization dedicated to Muslims. This is like their guise, their trick. And then when they actually are at the masjid or they're at the MSA, then they bring in the actual ideology, the actual feminism, the actual LGBT acceptance, the gender fluidity. All of these things come out afterwards. So if you go back to that report, we covered all of these issues. They participated in LGBT iftars, quote unquote iftars, in Ramadan, and they were this was even covered by the mainstream news, and just all kinds of crazy things. They supported the Zionist-run Muslim Leadership Initiative, MLI, which, alhamdulillah, the American community, Muslim community, has completely rejected because it's a very obvious way for Zionists to normalize Zionism in the Muslim community by selecting these Muslim representatives. Their most famous participant was Wajahat Ali and Rabia Chaudhry, those two, but also others like Harun Mughal and whoever else. So they selected them, take them on this trip to Israel, butter them up, and make them advocates for or allies to all kinds of Zionists in the United States. So this is a very overt infiltration tactic, and the community recognizes this. And that's why MLI was boycotted. MLI, it's like, we as a community are not going to allow this to happen. Then you have this organization, Heart Women and Girls, who supports. In the past, they supported MLI. And Ingrid Mattson also, who is connected to this initiative and other Zionist organizations. So this was covered in our 2018 report. There was one instance where they harassed and bullied an MSA to pay them money and to have trainings where they are coming to the MSA to train them on sex ed and all of these other feminist ideologies. So just a long and terrible record from Heart. So we wanted to provide an update. This is 2 years later, and this time we wanted to focus on their main scholarly advisor. Okay, according to them, if you go to Heart's website, they have an About Us and they have their team listed. They show board members and they have their scholarly advisors. And the main prominent person on that board or that scholarly advisory team is Ingrid Mattson. And when we put this report out in 2018, no one came out to openly defend Heart. Alhamdulillah, people recognize that how shameful it would be to come out and openly support such an organization. Heart itself put out a statement in response to our report, like a very generic and embarrassing statement that they put out, and I responded to that statement. But then Ingrid Mattson herself replied and made a defense of Heart and said that these are basically wonderful women, they're doing important work, don't trust the liars Okay, don't trust these liars that are trying to attack this wonderful organization of women who are doing such great work for the Muslim community. So here's the only one. So Heart is really, as an organization, is Ingrid Mattson's baby. Okay, she is responsible for it, and she has to be held accountable for it. And again, it's not just passively like she's just on the board. She goes to bat for Heart. She writes posts or tweets supporting them, defending them. She even does promotional videos for them, for their fundraising. And she said in one of these promotional videos that the people at Heart deeply love God. They deeply love God. So keep that phrase from Ingrid Mattson at the top of your mind, because as we look at some of these things that Heart is involved with, you ask yourself, are these Muslims who deeply love God, as judged by their behavior, as judged by their statements, as judged by how they blatantly violate Islam? You be the judge of that. You can see if Ingrid Mattson, what kind of a person do you have to be? What kind of Muslim scholar do you have to be to say that such people deeply love God? Let's take a look. So one of the first things that you can notice about Heart is that this is their board. Okay, who's on their board? So longtime board member Nadia Mohajir. Nadia Mohajir is the founder of a so-called gay masjid, gay trans masjid in Chicago, and she or he describes themselves as bisexual Shia transgender woman. Okay, so trans Nadia Mohajir. This is the description that he gives. As a bisexual transgender Shia Muslim, Nadia Mohajir needed a place to practice her faith without discrimination from those evil Muslims. And she knew she wasn't the only one. So in 2006, she established this gay masjid. Okay? And here it talks about how they've expanded into education advocacy, digital programming, outreach for LGBT youth during Ramadan. So it doesn't matter if it's Ramadan, outside of Ramadan. This is the board member of Heart, Women and Girls. So it's not clear, I mean, it is clear because she was, Ingrid Mattson has been the scholarly advisor for Heart since way before 2018 when our report came out. And this Nadia person has been on their board ever since then as well, since before 2018. So it's not like Mattson is ignorant of any of this. Okay. Only a few days from Nadia, only a few days until our Pride beach party in Chicago. Pride spelled with Eid. So they're having an Eid party on the beach, queer, trans, Muslim. So is this a guy under here? Or is it a trans guy or what? Okay, so the other person to look at is the founder or one of the co-founders of Heart, Nadia Mohajir. Nadia Mohajir, and again, her social media is replete with examples of openly promoting LGBT. Happy Pride, y'all. She went to a pride parade and has this sign about Muslims love you. Something like that is written on this poster at the pride parade, gay pride parade. So she, Nadia, is the co-founder of this organization. Okay, here's another post where she's talking about a retreat with trans women of color together to build the world they've been dreaming of. Watch out, world. So just no shame. And this is Sahar Pirzada, who's clapping her hands, so proud and so excited for your journey. So yeah, so I made a note on this caption that notice how she says women and trans women of color. So it's like she's making a distinction between women versus trans women. I thought there's no difference. Isn't that very cis-centric of Nadia? Quite a bigot. So here is Ingrid Mattson with the two directors of Heart, Samira Qureshi and Nadia Mohajir on the right, Samira on the left, and Ingrid Mattson right there in the middle. So we're going to look at her involvement. So the main thing that you notice with Heart is that they are constantly promoting LGBT. That is really the main thing that you'll notice. All right. So I won't go through every single instance here, but they partner with Advocates for Youth. Okay, Advocates for Youth is dedicated to LGBT, basically pushing this onto all different kinds of community, but they've also focused on Muslims, and they are introducing toolkits, actual materials for how we can really make sure to target Muslim youth and say that, oh, if you're gay, that's perfectly fine. If you're trans, that's perfectly fine. You need to express yourself. You need to come out. This is normal. There's nothing wrong with this. There's no problem to practice these kinds of behaviors. So they have all of this material that they're pushing on Muslim community. How? Because they're not Muslim themselves. It's Advocates for Youth. They employ Heart, and they work with Heart, and Heart is the one that pushes their material. So they have this Heart Advocates for Youth toolkit. I'm Muslim and I might not be straight. This is a whole campaign that they had on social media. And this is in 2018, but it extended for quite a bit. Muslim and proud, Muslim and queer. So they tried really hard to really push this. And it's very disturbing that they're targeting Muslim youth. So this is Ingrid Mattson's organization. Again, she is the scholarly advisor. And here is all this material that's targeting Muslim youth, targeting them on these issues. And the thing is that it causes confusion. What about Islam's teaching on this kind of youth and sexuality? What does Islam have to say about this? What does Islam have to say about these behaviors? That's nowhere in the picture. That's nowhere in any of these kinds of materials. Instead, you have this, 10 signs that you might be gay. And then they have quotes that seem to be fabrications with Muslim sounding names saying that, oh, you know, I found out when I was just a little kid, you know, just 10 years old, 11, 12 years old, I found out that I was gay. And, you know, I was sad at first, but then I found others and became so happy and I got the support that I needed. So blah, blah, blah. This is the kind of thing that is very problematic Islamically and can do a lot of damage when this is introduced to the community. And Heart is doing it. Heart with the blessing of Ingrid Mattson. Heart with the facilitation of Ingrid Mattson. Heart with the guidance of Ingrid Mattson, because she's supposed to be advising them. Then Heart also elaborates with Queer Crescent. Now this is just shocking. If you go to Queer Crescent on their Instagram and just see like what kinds of things they are promoting. You know, we have to blur out a lot of these images. LGBT Muslims are sacred beings. And then Heart, look, Heart invites them for a halaqah series, the story of Prophet Lut alayhi salam. Facilitated by, this halaqah will be held by our queer Muslim community members in partnership with Queer Crescent. So this is something that I haven't seen what this halaqah is about. They didn't publish it as far as I can tell. If you can find it, please send it to me because I want to see what Queer Crescent has to say about the Prophet Lut alayhi salam. Should be interesting. So this is another screenshot from their Instagram, Queer Crescent. Queer Mubarak for Eid Mubarak. Just infiltration, complete infiltration. And these are the people that Heart associates. Now, let me remind you, Heart is working with MSAs. In the past, they have, and still there are some MSAs, Muslim Student Associations, that will invite them or will have programs with them. And in most cases, if not all the cases, it's because they don't know that this is what Heart is about. They don't know. Or they see Ingrid Mattson's name. Oh, Ingrid Mattson, the president of ISNA, the female sheikha scholar who's standing next to these other shuyukh and was just awarded a community service, lifetime community service award by ISNA, and it was presented to her by Hamza Yusuf. Sheikh Hamza Yusuf of Zaytuna Institute is praising Ingrid Mattson in the highest terms, calling her a scholar of the highest order. Watch that award ceremony on ISNA's YouTube page. Look at what Hamza Yusuf says about Ingrid Mattson, and wake up. This is happening right under the community's nose. We all deserve rahmah. Okay? June is Pride Month. This is Heart's Instagram. June is Pride Month. And we at Heart believe that all of us deserve rahmah. Our Muslim communities will not be equitable, liberated, and empowered until we all are equitable, liberated, and empowered. We have a long way to go in embracing and uplifting Muslims who identify as LGBTQ+. Our communities are homophobic, transphobic, and queerphobic. And let's not forget anti-black and racist, of course, given these identity intersections. In many cases, Muslims are also oppressive by preventing folks from entering spiritual spaces, learning life-saving sexual information, etc. So not only are they promoting this, they're accusing the Muslim community of bigotry, of being oppressive. Transgender Awareness Week. So basically any kind of holiday associated with LGBT, Heart will have a post praising it. And also, again, accusing Muslims. Muslims continue to discriminate, oppress, and spread hate. Okay, so I wonder what do they have to say about the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, about the one who is a woman but dresses as a man, or one who is a man who dresses like and acts like a woman. What did the Prophet ﷺ say about this? It's very important. You should educate yourself. And then they put this kind of picture to go with it. Who can be against a father and mother? We assume, okay, maybe this is a father in this kind of scarf, hijab, but who can be against such a beautiful family image? Love. Who can be against love? More transgender Muslim, #Muslim and transgender, Heart Women and Girls. Beyond halal and haram, Muslim sex and relationships. You have Heart teaming up with Advocates for Youth, Asia Pacific Institute on Gender-Based Violence. All of these very shady organizations and NGOs. And I'm sure that for many of them, Ingrid Mattson was key in getting them those kinds of partnerships or grants or funding. Consent is Faruq. So this is one of the major distortions of Heart, is that they take Islamic terminology. We already saw rahmah. They take it and they associate it with some feminist idea. So consent is fard, right? Patriarchy is fitna. Okay? Patriarchy is fitna, and they have these kinds of stickers for this slogan. Supporting LGBT is rahmah. Not supporting trans is dhulm. These kinds of ideas. Then just really, in your face stuff. What's that stuff coming out of my... Yeah, so many examples about what Heart is about. And you don't need a report for this. You don't need Muslim Skeptic to publish a report and put it all there. You can go to their social media profile. You can go to their channels, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter maybe, and look, go through the feed and see what they're promoting. It doesn't even require a search. You just scroll. So then what makes Heart particularly dangerous is the fact that they're trying to reshape the Muslim community. They had a whole series on Karbala and different kinds of Shi'i ideas and doctrines about mourning and attacking Sunnis, that this is communal oppression. Shi'is are facing communal oppression. Then here they, in one post around Ashura time, they said, as an organization led by predominantly non-Shia Muslims, we recognize the erasure many of our communities have participated in and the harm caused for centuries. We look to our Shia siblings as examples of resilience in the face of oppression and honor the care they demonstrate in a time of mourning every Muharram. Okay, so they're promoting everything basically. And the point is they want to undermine the mainstream Muslim community. They want to undermine and disrupt. Then here is an interview that was done with Nadia, the founder. Nadia founded Heart Women and Girls. Part of her work is helping individuals discover which practices and beliefs are truly part of the faith tradition and which are learned through patriarchy and colonialism. Right? So this is the idea. She wants to be able to judge, and Heart wants to be able to judge that, prohibiting fahisha, prohibiting zina, prohibiting all of this immodesty, prohibiting all of this is just a patriarchal accretion. This is just from colonialism. This is just something that was added. It's not a part of the Quran. It's not part of the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These are just additions. We have to get rid of this. We have to cleanse Islam of all the patriarchy. We have to cleanse Islam of all of this colonial ideas. So that's very dangerous. Like when you have an organization like that that's working with MSAs, okay, and you have certain even seminaries. Okay, a seminary is like a kind of a madrasa, right? It's supposed to be, or it should be, a kind of madrasa. If you're a seminary and you're trying to teach Islam, okay, you have these seminaries run by Muslims that are talking to Heart and trying to organize events with Heart, trying to collaborate. Yeah, sure, come along. Come to our masjid, come to our seminary. Teach about this sex ed, sex health, sexual health. It's important, of course. And look how brazen. Instead, so here, diversifying the boards of Muslim institutions to consider race, socioeconomic background, gender identity, sexual orientation, and ability. They want to have actual LGBT on the masjid boards. This is what they're fighting for. If Heart is fighting for it, that means Ingrid Mattson is fighting for it. And, it just beyond belief. Like, as you read this, I was writing much of this with the team and working on this since January. And reading it now, I'm still getting angry. I'm still getting upset. So this is a video. Okay, this is a video that Heart did. And I put the link to the video on YouTube, where they talk exactly what they're all about and what they're trying to do, and they mention LGBT specifically. So they say, we are an organization that does center folks who are oftentimes marginalized in our community, whether it's LGBTQ survivors or folks who have disabilities, women and children. So look how they talk about LGBT first, right? That's the first priority, survivors. Okay. What does that mean? LGBT survivors. So the video talks about, here's another quote, we are trying to help other Muslims realize that regardless of your sexual orientation, your gender identity, everyone deserves the same amount of information, the same type of information, safe spaces, blah, blah, blah. If we are leaving these people, LGBT, out of the conversation, we're actually oppressing them intentionally. Okay? So we have to not leave them out of the conversation. They have to be on the masjid boards. They have to be leading the prayers. They have to be leading the halaqat, right? Because Queer Crescent was leading Heart's halaqah. If we don't do these things, we are actively, intentionally oppressing them, according to Heart. We're not making ourselves religious authorities to tell someone their lifestyle is or isn't wrong. We are saying that you have this lived experience and there's a spot for you. And I think in that way, we're faith inspired. Okay, so which faith is Heart inspired by? So this is, you can read all of this in detail, but Mattson also appears in this video. She's also in this video. And I'm not going to play the video because I don't want to get any kind of copyright complaint from them to try to take this video down. That's why I'm just reading it for you. But Mattson also comes out and she says, I have great trust in Heart. Okay, this is in the same video that's talking about LGBTQ survivors, and if you leave them out, you're intentionally oppressing them. In the same video, Mattson is saying, I have great trust in Heart and in their leadership and staff. I personally don't know of any other organization that addresses the issues Heart addresses with the same kind of professionalism, accessibility, and a public health approach. They are people who have a deep love of God. This is the highest, this is superlative praise. Okay? She's saying there's no one like them. There's no one who's doing what Heart is doing. There's no one that's doing this kind of work. And this was also a telling quote. At the most fundamental level, Heart is founded in showing compassion to others, and that is the most basic and foundational principle of living in community as Muslims. Really? Is that the most foundational principle? Okay, compassion to others no matter what they promote, no matter what they do, what kind of fahisha they're engaged with, in what kind of batil they're promoting. We have to have compassion no matter what. This is a foundational principle. So this is what we can see from Heart in this video. What is very surprising, though, is that this video was... Oh, wait, I forgot to mention one point. At the end of the video, Nadia says, in the next 10 years, we'd like to continue doing what we're doing, but to do it in a way that's even bolder. So with all of this stuff that we've seen, it's still not bold enough, according to Heart. They want to be even bolder. And we're only reaching a certain percentage of American Muslims, and we want to ultimately reach all of them. So this is very disturbing. This is very disturbing how they're plotting against the Muslim community. So how are we going to address this? And how can we understand the fact that Ingrid Mattson is considered by many, unfortunately, a respected sheikha or scholar still in the Muslim community? How is this possible? And again, the point is that there's lack of information. People don't know this stuff. They haven't done their homework. So where does Heart gets its funding? You can look at their public tax filings. They've actually been getting more and more money every year. So 2018, they had a bigger budget than 2017. 2019 was bigger than 2018. To make a long story short, they do a lot of fundraising with these kind of leftist organizations. They do grassroots, like on Facebook. They have these kinds of campaigns that they run through Facebook's platform. But what was disturbing is that LaunchGood featured them. LaunchGood in 2017 featured Heart. Now, LaunchGood is supposed to be a Muslim fundraising platform, and they're supposed to review the campaigns that they run. Not anyone can open a campaign on LaunchGood. You have to be approved. They have to go through your campaign and approve it. So how did they approve Heart in 2017? And this page is still up. It's called Let's Talk About Sex. Okay, on LaunchGood site. And this is the campaign video. So this is on Heart, and these are the same people that I just told you their quotes. So this is something that LaunchGood is okay with, right? And then in 2020, this campaign is still active. Okay, it takes Heart to grow. So they're trying to raise 15K. They haven't really got much. But why is this campaign open? And that video that I was reading quotes from about LGBT acceptance, that's this video. Right? This is the video that plays. So who at LaunchGood reviewed this? Was it reviewed? And look, they're claiming to be zakat eligible. They're claiming this and collecting money from the community. So this is predatory. And LaunchGood is allowing it. So that's unacceptable. How can I trust the campaigns on LaunchGood if they just allow anyone? Okay? And people who are actively promoting fahisha in their campaign video. And you have it on your platform. So I can't really trust LaunchGood. If I want to make a charitable contribution, I can't go to LaunchGood and expect that, oh, what I read is going to be the whole story. Maybe LaunchGood is promoting people that are doing all kinds of nonsense elsewhere, publicly, and LaunchGood is allowing them to fundraise on their site. So I'm not going to be contributing to LaunchGood. I have in the past. I've contributed to LaunchGood, but I can't really trust them. And this is something where they have to address. They have to publicly address it. And I have informed them, actually. I have contacted them prior to this report being published, about a week, almost a week prior, and no response. The campaign is still up. And another shocking thing on LaunchGood was Masjid Arabia, that gay masjid, was also fundraising. Pride fundraiser, also fundraising on LaunchGood. So where's the response? They need to make it very clear, LaunchGood, if you're watching this, make it very clear your policy, and you have to change. You've lost the confidence of many Muslims who in the past have been donating through your platform, but I can't see how that can continue. Other funding sources, you can go through these, a lot of leftist organizations, but the main source of funding for Heart is the federal government. Through the Justice Department, they raised $325,000 for 1 year. Imagine how much, that's a huge budget, okay? So many Muslim organizations can do so much good with that kind of money. And what is Heart producing? They're producing their pro-LGBT, pro-feminist booklets that aren't really, besides the fahisha, they're also not very professionally made, it seems. And they're stuffing their pockets with this kind of federal cash from Trump's Justice Department. 2019, almost $500,000. So when it's all said and told, they're reaching $1 million in federal funding. Federal funding, and who knows how they are getting these kinds of grants, okay? Because it's not everyone that can apply to the US government and get a grant accepted. Not 1 year, but 2 years. 2 years. And who knows about 2020? Maybe they got a grant for 2020 as well. And this is a Republican president. This is Republican. Donald Trump's Justice Department. Imagine a Biden Justice Department. How much cash is going to come into their coffers on that basis? I'm sure they're chomping at the bit waiting for Biden to get into the White House. So you can go to the official Justice Department page where they say the grant amount, and you can see those values. It's just shocking. So what is Heart providing the government? Are they spying on the Muslim community? Are they providing certain information that might be useful to the US government? Allahu A'lam. This is why organizations, you don't hear Muslim organizations taking funds from the government. This is something unique. And it's all under Ingrid Mattson's watch. It's with her blessing, the heart women who have this deep love of God. So who are the spiritual teachers and early supporters of Heart? You can go through this. I won't go through everything, but one is Umar Muzaffar in Chicago. Heart was based in Chicago. All of the early founders consider themselves to be the student of Umar Muzaffar. And you can see he has a long record of supporting LGBT and just really dubious, confused understanding of Islam, just complete embarrassment. He's a chaplain. He's an actual chaplain at Loyola University. And he's been implicated in CVE in terms of supporting it or defending Muslims who are participating in the CVE program, which, you know, unfortunately is not as uncommon as we would hope in terms of Muslim figures who defended it. Also MLI, supporting MLI, which we talked about before. So yeah, here's pictures of his participation. Here's one of the Heart associates. I guess it was a Halloween costume. Here's Umar Muzaffar. It's Holocaust Remembrance Day. I'm making sure that there's not going to be a Holocaust here of my kind, of Jews, LGBT, blah, blah, blah. Another figure in Chicago, he was the chair of one of the main umbrella organizations for masajid, Muhammad Kaiseruddin. He was one of the early defenders and supporters of Heart, telling the Muslim community that you need to trust Heart, you need to welcome Heart, you need to support Heart. So Kaiseruddin here, as this figure, here's his picture with one of the Heart directors. He is opening the doors to masajid to allow Heart to play this role of health education, sex education. And he's giving them that green light. This is devastating. And then Kaiseruddin and Muzaffar went to LGBT iftar in 2016 that was organized by Heart. LGBT iftar. And at the iftar, he makes quite shocking statements. He said that he felt he had to review Quranic scriptures regarding the faith's posture towards gays and lesbians. He wants to revise and review. Okay, so they are going into these masajid. They are training. They want to train imams. Okay, they want to train imams. They want to train the community on these issues. And these are their views. These are their beliefs. Muzaffar at that LGBT iftar said, this is an attempt to simply start the conversation. He's just starting. The iftar with lesbians and gays, that's just a start. What does it mean to be Muslim and LGBTQ? Quite a profound question, Muzaffar. Then another big connection here with Heart is Umar Faruq Abd-Allah. Okay, so he is another figure who is seen as very scholarly, very religiously authoritative. And it turns out he was a mentor for Nadia Mohajir. He mentored her. And Nadia praises him and cites him as a big influence on her. A big influence. Here's this quote. A scholar, this is Nadia saying this, a scholar, Dr. Umar Faruq Abd-Allah, was integral or integral? How do you pronounce this? Integral in helping me explore this and the need to contribute to an American Islam. Okay? So Nadia, the founder of Heart, is saying that Dr. Umar is integral to her understanding and her activism. Okay? And you should really read the whole quote. Okay? Because she was disillusioned. She describes how her early exposure to Islam really made her feel that faith was a problem, but then she came into contact with Dr. Umar and her view completely changed. And he encouraged her to explore this and the need to contribute to an American Islam. So when I use the word American Islam, people say that I made that up or I'm just using it in a pejorative way. I am using it in a pejorative way, American Islam, but I wasn't the one who coined this expression. It's people like Dr. Umar Faruq Abd-Allah who have created this expression, American Islam, and they're the ones who have been promoting it. Now we have turned it into a joke. That was the whole point. In the same way that we use compassionate imams. We've turned the word into a joke because of how people have been using it. How people like Ingrid Mattson, as I read you that quote from the video, she used the word compassion. It's the opposite of compassion. In the same way, this American Islam has nothing to do with Islam. So we need to turn these phrases, these buzzwords that they try to use and impose on the Muslim community, fine. We'll use your language and your vocabulary, but we're going to make a joke out of it because what you're promoting is a joke and is completely unacceptable. So then in another interview, or article actually, Nadia mentions, as Dr. Umar taught me for many years, we have an obligation to protect our faith, but above that, we also have an obligation to protect our life and our sanity. So she was heavily influenced by Umar Faruq Abd-Allah. And the other thing that we reveal in this report is that Dr. Umar's wife was a board member of Heart for 7 years. Okay? She was a board member at Heart for 7 years. So a big influence on Heart. And that is significant. That's something that questions need to be asked. How this organization, which as far back as 2017, if you go back to our 2018 report, it covers a lot of stuff from way before 2018, looking at the history of Heart up to that point. And you have the wife of one of the major scholars, or seen as one of the major scholars of the Western world, very popular. He's associated with the organization in a very clear-cut way. So when we look at Ingrid Mattson herself, she has all kinds of connections to Zionists, as we mentioned. She has connections to all kinds of government agencies. If you look at the ISNA convention in the years that she was vice president and president at ISNA, you can see so many examples of government officials from the FBI, from Department of Homeland Security. All of these counter-radicalization people from the government are invited to speak at ISNA and to have this kind of respected position to lecture Muslims about how to police themselves and how to monitor themselves. This is infiltration, this is spying on the community, this is surveillance of the community, and Ingrid Mattson was a big part of that and arguably still might be. And here I mentioned she's in an elite club. She's one of the very few Muslims that has been praised by a CIA director and advisor to the Department of Homeland Security, John Brennan. So there's a video, it's linked. I've also saved the video, so if they take it down, it's still there. But she praises Ingrid Mattson by name and specifically says, in reference to the fight against violent extremism. So she was a part of these government programs. So many Muslims are not necessarily aware of the fact that Ingrid Mattson actually is very deviant in many of her views on Islam. She is nowhere near a traditional Muslim. She's nowhere near an Orthodox Muslim. And you just have to go to one video. Okay, just go to this YouTube video. It's linked in the report. Again, I'm not playing it because I don't want to get any kind of copyright complaint on this stream. But she respectfully refers to Amina Wadud. This is Amina Wadud that went on a tirade insulting Ibrahim alayhi salam, calling him a deadbeat dad. Her book says she advocates saying no to the Quran. When the Quran says something we don't agree with, just say no. This is Amina Wadud. Okay? And Ingrid Mattson has nothing but respect when bringing her up. Anyway, so much garbage that she says. She attacks traditionalists. She says that we fetishize the Islamic tradition. Fetishize it, right? Yeah, just if you go and watch, like I made it so easy with this section of the report. It's so easy. Timestamps. Just 7 minutes to know exactly what Ingrid Mattson thinks about the Islamic tradition. From her own words, right? So many tweets. Every Jewish holiday, it seems, Ingrid Mattson, at least many of them, she says, Happy Yom Kippur or whatever it may be. She likes to keep good relations with Christians and Jews by actually celebrating, it seems, with them or congratulating them on their holidays. Many examples here. Oh, this is the tweet in 2018. When our report came out, she called it fake news. Fake news, innuendo about sisters doing vital work in our community. This is how she defended Hart. Okay, here's from the website. She's listed as one of the scholarly advisors. These two women, Shabana is at the American Islamic College. Okay, another feminist academic, pro-LGBT, pro-everything. And this Hammer as well. Same, cut from the same cloth. These are the sheikhas, the scholars that are advising Hart. More pictures. Ingrid praising them publicly, praising Muzaffar publicly, talking about a project that Mattson has now called Hurma, the Hurma Project. She's tried to raise money, has gotten a lot of money from different non-Muslim donors, and the whole point of it is to hold abusive imams accountable. Holding abusive imams accountable. So there are a bunch of these different organizations that have popped up in the past 2 years to hold abusive imams accountable. And when you look at these organizations, they all collaborate on some level. They all know about each other and they work together. But they are also associated and promote LGBT, most of them. They explicitly promote pure secular feminist doctrine. Their entire ideology on which they're holding imams accountable is feminism, right? They're not using Islamic standards to hold imams accountable. They're using feminist standards to hold imams accountable in most of these instances. And we can talk a little bit about that. But Hurma is run by Ingrid Mattson, and she launched it last year, and they had a conference in January of this year. And many of these different groups, like Heart was there, FACE is another despicable organization, and then also you had, what other? Anyway, we'll get to that part of the report. So group pictures with all of these organizations, Family and Youth Institute, Alia Salem of FACE. Okay, and then here, also speaking at the conference, okay, traditional sheikhas. So this, again, is a conference organized by Ingrid Mattson. Okay? It's very clear what she's about. It's very clear her association with Heart. It's very clear what Heart is about. You just need to go to Ingrid Mattson's Twitter feed to see all of the evidence. And she's holding a conference, and then you have these people who are attending the conference. So Rania Awad of Khalil Center, who is the wife of one of the main figures at In Sheikh's Clothing, which we'll talk about in a second. Okay, Rami Nasur, who is commenting. He might still be commenting in the chat right now. Sheikh Rami is the wife or the husband of Rania of Khalil Center, and she is at this conference and promoting it. Muslima Pourmul of this Majlis organization, Zainab Ansari Taysir Academy, or Seminary, I should say. These are supposed to be sheikhas, sheikhat, okay, that are teaching Muslims deen, but they're also working with Ingrid Mattson specifically on abuse, imam abuse, okay? What does Ingrid Mattson think is abuse? What does Heart think is abuse? We just saw their definition of abuse. They said that if Muslims are not including LGBT, actively including, then that's intentionally oppressing them. That's intentionally doing dhulm against them. So this is how their concept of abuse is so confused and distorted and has nothing to do with Islam. So how are such people wanting to hold imams accountable? How are they wanting to hold the community accountable? Okay? And some of these groups are completely opposed to polygyny, the fact that a man can have more than one wife in Islam. They're completely opposed to that, and they consider any imam who has more than one wife to be a predator, to be abusive, and they go after such people, right? So they're the ones who are preying on the community. They're the ones who are spreading all of this fahisha. Who is holding them accountable? Who is holding them accountable for the things that they're doing? And who elected them to be these kinds of accountability police, to hold others in according to some standard that they made up for themselves? This is not acceptable. Okay? So when these sheikhas, okay, if Ingrid Mattson and these heart people, okay, that you saw the pictures of, if they have a gathering and a conference together and they want to address abuse or whatever, no one would care. No one would give any attention. But it's the fact that you have people from seminaries like this Zainab Ansari or Tamara Gray of her whatever organization coming and attending and taking selfies and smiling and tweeting about it. Okay? Look at this. Dr. Ingrid Mattson retweets Dr. Rania Awad praising female Islamic scholars. Okay? We have to quell the oft-mentioned complaint that there are no female scholars. And then she tags all of these people. Tamara Gray, Muslima Pormul, Zainab Ansari, Zainab Alwani, and then Ingrid Mattson. This is her conference. Okay? So is Rania just not aware? Dr. Rania is not aware? Tamara Gray, she's not aware of what Ingrid Mattson is all about? Muslima Pormul is not aware of what Ingrid Mattson is all about? You're going to a conference specifically about this issue of abuse, which is everything that heart is about. And you're not aware of heart, you're not aware of what Ingrid Mattson actually believes about these issues? Maybe you're really ignorant. Maybe you haven't done your homework, but now you have a responsibility. Okay? Don't be mad at me. Don't be mad at Muslim Skeptic and the Muslim Skeptic team for doing months of research to bring you this report. Don't be mad at us. We're doing you a favor. We're helping you so that you can make a clean cut. Disassociate with yourself. You want to be involved with these kinds of activities, then you're going to get your hands dirty. Okay? You want to go in these types of environments, in these types of conferences, then what do you expect? You associate with these types of people and then you're offended and you want to play innocent when you're called out on it? No, this is exactly what is leading to someone like Ingrid Mattson being in the position that she is in. Because people like you who are claiming to be sheikhat, female Islamic scholarship, you're not saying anything about this. You're not calling her out. You're not making it clear to your students and your followers who she is. Instead, you're promoting her. You're putting up these smiling selfies. Then guess what? Your followers are going to go and think that she's an authority. They're going to see what Ingrid Mattson is all about. They're going to see her promoting loudly, openly, brazenly promoting heart, women and girls. They're going to start thinking that that's okay, then that's acceptable. This is what happens. This is exactly how this kind of infiltration of ideas, infiltration of agents happens, because people stay silent or they don't do their homework and they associate with these people. They have to be held responsible for that. They have to be held responsible for that. If you don't know, yeah, here's Muslima, a beautiful day spent in beautiful company, alhamdulillah. You know, we are going to, inshallah, we'll see. This conference itself that Muslima is praising and that Dr. Rania is praising, you should have seen the program schedule and who was invited. We didn't publish that in this report. We have the schedule about who spoke, what they spoke about, what kind of people are speaking. Okay? There was one speaker named Sohbia, I think that's her name. She is a promoter of pornography, that Muslims need to be more accepting of pornography. And she has published papers on this, or she has tweeted about this and argued this. This is the type of person that Ingrid Mattson invites for her Hurma conference. And people who, activists who have campaigns against polygyny, targeting the Muslim community in Canada, working with government authorities in Canada. Ingrid Mattson brings such activists, feminist activists, to speak at the Hurma conference. Okay, so a beautiful company when Muslima, the Sheikha, puts this out. What's the message there? This is providing Islamic legitimacy to such activities and such people. Inshallah, let's see that program. Okay, maybe Muslim Skeptic will do a separate report looking at Hurma itself and looking at the conference that they had. This is important because this is unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable. And you can't play innocent when you're this involved. If it's one event, okay, maybe you were invited to the event, to the conference, and then you like, something's fishy here. Something's pretty problematic here. Then you start hesitating and, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe this wasn't a good idea now that I see who's actually involved. Then you won't promote it. You won't post selfies. You won't post tweets praising it. And especially when the whole conference is about imam hunting. You're hunting after imams. Who's going to hold Ingrid Mattson accountable? She wants to hold imams accountable? In Sheikh's clothing, Rami Nassour wants to hold imams accountable. Why not? Why isn't he holding Ingrid Mattson accountable? Why isn't he holding all of these other organizations that he partners with and speaks with accountable? And the audacity, like Rami Nassour having all of this attitude in the comments when I posted. Here's what it looks like. Okay, this is what he commented on my Facebook page under the post. So he took big offense that in Sheikh's clothing and these pictures with Rania, public pictures, his wife, very upset with me. He says, Danny boy, you can call me anytime and speak with me face to face when you are out here in California, and speak with me like a man, man to man, instead of making false claims about me and posting your article. Message me and send your number so we can have a chat by phone or in person. Ahlan wa sahlan. So this is this appropriate? Like, is this the way that a sheikh, a scholar, someone who claims to be a scholar, is this how they talk? Is this how they address an issue? You better call me. Message me and call me. Speak to me man to man. Yeah, so there's no need for this macho talk at all. Like, there's no lie, there's no slander. Okay, some other people from In Sheikh's Clothing, his organization, commented in the chat accusing Muslim Skeptic of slandering them. Where's the slander? Where's the slander? All we did was share facts about the participation in this conference. Okay, so there was actually a mistake that we made, and we corrected it because we had put that. We have put that in here when we mentioned Dr. Rania. We said Khalil Center and In Sheikh's Clothing. Okay, that was a mistake. It wasn't intentional because Dr. Rania is not officially representing In Sheikh's Clothing. Okay, but she's the wife of the main figure, the main scholar at In Sheikh's Clothing. She's the wife of him, and she also, as it turns out, is a Yaqeen director, or she has some role at Yaqeen Institute. So we made a mistake. We changed it. Like, the fact of the matter is, we're writing thousands of words, and sometimes mistakes are made, but it's never intentional. And then if someone finds a mistake, we correct it. we correct it and we make that edit, and we want to be as accurate as possible. But we're not slandering anyone here. This is the reality, okay? In Sheikh's Clothing, which is an ugly name, by the way, an ugly name for your organization, is dedicated to making reports and publicizing, making YouTube videos where they're attacking imams and making all of these wild accusations against imams. And they have offense, they take offense when there's a report that mentions them. Then what should we do? So if In Sheikh's Clothing is really opposed to what these organizations are doing, then stop associating with them. Don't go to their conferences. Don't have these kinds of activities with them. Hold on a second. Yes? Who is this? Okay, sorry. I took the volume off, so the volume is back. So the point that I was making is that you have all of these associations that Ingrid Mattson has, and these are not just coincidental associations. These are repeated activities where they are working together, and it's not just one-offs. Okay, if it's a one-off association, okay, that's something else. But if you find the same people in this circle working together, participating, then that's a problem. That's a big problem. Because they have to know who they're working with, right? You have to know who you're working with. And if you know who she is, then how would you work with her? Why would you promote her? Why would you call her a sheikha? Why would you call her a scholar? Okay, so a lot of interesting information about Ingrid Mattson's infiltration in all of these organizations, and no one's saying anything. No one's saying anything. This, I was mentioning Tamara Gray's organization featuring Ingrid Mattson on multiple occasions, but you have spiritual abuse as the topic of conversation, and then you have Sheikh Rami Nassour of In Sheikh's Clothing participating with Ingrid Mattson. So if someone like Rami and In Sheikh's Clothing have a problem with Ingrid Mattson, they have to make it clear. You have to say that, look, why? Why do you have that responsibility? Because you're in the same field. Okay? You claim that you're holding imams accountable, abusive imams. Ingrid Mattson is doing it with heart, with Hurma. You have other activists with their dinky little organizations. They are fahisha promoters in every single instance, and then you're sitting right next to them and you're participating with them. Okay? So yes, we can hold you accountable for that. Yes, we can have guilt by association in that instance. Okay? This is not just a passing coincidental association. And the whole idea of guilt by association, yes, we have this concept of guilt by association in Islam. Just think about the wife of Lut alayhi salam, the Prophet Lut alayhi salam, and how she was punished with Qawm Lut. She received the same punishment as Qawm Lut. Why? Because she had sympathy for them. Because she had this association. The association was as small, seemingly small, as sympathy. So what about those who would stand next to the promoters of modern day Qawm Lut? The ones that are promoting and proliferating the ideas of modern day Qawm Lut. Then what about those people? Shouldn't they at least be held accountable? Shouldn't they have to at least address some basic questions to the community? Don't play innocent, okay? If you have a problem with imams and you want to hold them accountable, okay, we'll evaluate that and we'll evaluate what that entails separately. But how about you start holding people in your field accountable? People who are seen as your peers, how about you hold them accountable first and foremost? Rami Nassour, In Sheikh's Clothing. You want to play tough and call me? We'll talk. We'll talk. You want to call me directly? I don't know how you got my number, but we can talk. Don't worry. So here is the program poster. Seekers Guidance, Faraz Rabbani's organization, huge promoter of Ingrid Mattson. Huge promoter. Are they not aware? Is Faraz Rabbani not aware of what Ingrid Mattson is involved with? Go to their site and you can see all of this nonsense from Ingrid Mattson. Articles, article after article after article on Islamic guidance. Are you a seeker? You want seekers guidance? Go to Ingrid Mattson. That's what Sheikh Faraz Rabbani is saying. And on. So many examples. Exploring sexual ethics in Islam. Okay. Akram Nadwi. Sheikh Akram Nadwi in the UK is inviting or allowing co-paneling with Ingrid Mattson. Boundaries, consent, and responding to abuse. Okay. May 2018 in London. So Ingrid Mattson is trying to export her ideology to the UK. Sheikh Akram Nadwi, oh, ahlan wa sahlan, come on, let's have a discussion on sexual ethics in Islam. Isn't it the responsibility of an organization, if you're having a panel, don't you want to know the background and the ideas on that specific topic of your co-panelist? Like if I were invited to talk about the issue of, let's say, science in Islam, or liberalism, and I'm invited to speak on a panel, or I want to organize a panel, and I invite a speaker, aren't I going to check the background of the panelists that I'm bringing on, especially on that subject? Like if I have Fulan, Sheikh Fulan is going to come to the panel to discuss science in Islam, I want to know what his views are on science in Islam. How else am I going to organize the panel? So did Sheikh Akram Nadwi not know what Ingrid Mattson believes about these issues and that she is the scholarly advisor to heart women and girls? Maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't. But now people who know him, who can talk to him, should raise the issue. What do you say about this? And it's very simple. Okay, I'll even spell it out. We did not know. okay, that this is what she is about. We did not know that this is what she promotes, and we do not stand for what she promotes. She is wrong on this. This is absolutely unacceptable, and we are not going to be working with her in the future. That's all. Khalas, done. That's it. That's it. Then you do your job, because then your followers understand that, okay, our teacher has made it very clear what this person is about and is not going to associate with them. Khalas, that's it. What's the big deal? How is that so hard for you to do? How is that so hard for you to do? More association, nice talk with Faraz Rabbani and Ingrid Mattson at a masjid. Hamza Yusuf this past year gave her a community service award. Community service award, and he praised her in the highest terms. So is Sheikh Hamza Yusuf not aware of what Ingrid Mattson is all about? Answer me that question. Is he not aware? So this is normalization. CARE, bringing on CARE San Francisco, a conversation on gender-based violence with facing abuse. This is FACE, Heart Women and Girls. Okay. This is the guy that you guys might recognize, Tala al-Badru, the singer from that Omar Suleiman ritual video. He was the one who was singing that with CARE. More events with CARE, FACE, Heart. Okay, or this is the same one. They just advertised it. This is the poster for it. Malika is another organization. So then we look at more funding sources. Al-Hibri Foundation. This, they need their own looking into. They fund a lot of Muslim organizations. And the way that they do it is they fund organizations that have these kinds of issues. Promotion of LGBT, promotion of feminism, promotion of liberalism. Engage, like organizations that are outright collaborating and normalizing Zionism. A lot of reports recently, last month, about Engage, and they're funded by Al-Hibri. So then these people are getting funds. And what does the community have to say about it? And then they provide these awards. So Nadia Mohajir wins the 2018 Peace Award from Al-Hibri. Why? Why is she winning this award? What has she contributed to building community other than spreading fahisha? And yeah, they shared one of her anti-hijab articles. Ingrid Mattson praising this. You have the award ceremony. This is not Nadia's award ceremony. This is another award ceremony for honoring Dalia Mugahed. So they awarded Nadia Mohajir in 2018. Coincidentally, 2018 is when we had the report on Heart. Then a few months later, you have Al-Hibri awarding Nadia Mohajir the Community Builder Award. 2019, we had a report on Dalia Mugahed. And then 2019, coincidentally, Al-Hibri awards Dalia Mugahed the Community Builder Award, or one of their awards. This is the award ceremony, and you have Dalia Mugahed there sitting right next to Ingrid, laughing it up, having a good time. Sherman Jackson is there, and Muhammad Majid. Imam Majid is there as well. You know, just having a good time at the award ceremony. Muhammad Majid is here. He's a very prominent imam in the US if you don't know him, and he was also president of ISNA. He preceded Ingrid Mattson. So him and Ingrid Mattson are very close. And so here is Muhammad Majid presenting the award to Nadia Mohajir at Al-Hibri's award ceremony. It's very shocking, because now it's not even Ingrid Mattson, it's Heart itself is getting awarded by a prominent imam. And he wants to be taken as an orthodox imam for the community. Infiltration. How did we get to this state that we're in? It's because of these kinds of imams. Then this is Imam Majid's organization, Peaceful Family Project. They invite Heart to train imams, to have imam training by this organization. So this is from 2016. 2017, again, they have another imam training. And then 2018, again, an imam training. And here's Imam Majid. And this is Samira from Heart. They have an imam training. What are they training these imams about? And Peaceful Families is also involved with Al-Hibri Foundation. So this is an incestuous network. This is how it's described in the report. An incestuous network of all of these people who are connected, and they support each other, and they work with each other, and they promote each other, and they're silent, okay, on each other. When they do these wrong things, they're silent. They don't speak out. This is the inner circle. Okay, there's no accountability, and this is how they just promote each other. They become more and more and more prominent. They fund thousands and thousands of dollars in funding being every year handed out from these organizations. And we're going to do a report. I'm going to, in another live session, inshallah, I want to explain to you the way that this funding structure works from Al-Hibri, from Pillars. Where do they get their funding from? All of this is documented. Where does Al-Hibri get its money from? Where does Pillars get its money from? Pillars is another funding source like Al-Hibri. We didn't cover it in depth in this report, but they are one of the biggest promoters of garbage and trash, and all of this fahisha is coming from Pillars. And you'll be shocked, and you'll be shocked to see the organizations that are taking money. So that's for a separate report, inshallah. And then finally, Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Okay, they offer master's degree programs, and it's supposed to be this meld of Islamic and academic information to give you a master's degree in Islamic leadership. That's what one of their degrees is called, Islamic leadership. But look at the people who are teaching at Bayan. Okay, or actually, let me show you that later. Look at this, Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Okay, well, it looks like in the report I covered this first, so let's look at this. These are their faculty members. Umar, Faruq, Abd-Allah, which we talked about, Sherman Jackson, Asifa Qureshi, Lands, a huge reformist, okay? She writes many things on the reform of Islam and how we need to liberalize these different aspects of Islam. A report could be written on each of these people. Yeah, so just Google search, if you want to know more, like what are these people about? Sayyid Qazwini, Shi'i, Omid Safi, Shi'i reformist, who is one of the most deviant. He is not ashamed about promoting LGBT, not ashamed of promoting Buddhism and Hinduism and other religions. He's just, just go to his feed and come to your own conclusion. Sohaib Webb is there in the midst of all of these academic reformists. Okay, all of these people. Muhammad Fadl, huge reformist, big supporter of gay marriage. Okay, actually, he is like Jonathan Brown, actually, in the sense of being a supporter of gay marriage, or the right to gay marriage. The right to gay marriage. Khad Latif, we've talked about before, and then Omar Sulaiman right at the bottom. So these are why, these faculty, why this mix of people. It's an interesting question. This report that we did wasn't about Bayan specifically, but what is significant about Bayan is that they are sponsoring a training, Imams training course called Caring Communities Project, and they announced it on International Women's Day. How woke of them. And this is their president, Jihad Turk, introducing the Caring Communities Project run by Ingrid Mattson and her Hurma Project. Hurma Project, allied with, working with Bayan to introduce this project, involving a couple of months of training sessions on abuse, on accountability, on gender-based violence, all of this feminist doctrine. And do you know who has created this program, the curriculum for this program for imams and teachers and leaders in the community and chaplains. Who has created this material, this course? Oh, it's Heart. The curriculum has been developed with the partnership of Heart, a leading nonprofit dedicated to ensuring that all Muslims have the resources, language, and choice to nurture sexual health and confront sexual violence. Okay? So it's scheduled for December 6th through February 28th, 2021. So they list all of these scholars and experts that will be participating. You can see the names here. Muhammad Majid, as we mentioned. The Incestuous Network. Ingrid Mattson at the top. Najiba Saeed. She's the daughter of the current ISNA president. She's also involved with Bayan. She's going to be involved or teaching for this caring communities. And then others, Khalid Latif, FACE, another Imam Hunting feminist org, with Alia Salem, the LGBT anti-polygamy activist. Mohsen. These are contributing resources. So on the website, here's a screenshot. The course will include publicly available content and resources from these organizations. And In Sheikh's clothing is mentioned there as well. They apparently deem, Ingrid Mattson and Heart apparently deem these resources as good. You know, this is good resources for you to consult. Okay, so this is the report. Now I want to take questions, but again, the bottom line is, how did we get to this point where you have these activists at seminaries, at Islamic graduate schools, teaching, training imams? They're not just training MSA kids. They're not just training the masjid goers. They're training the imams. So the imams will take that doctrine, that batil, and spread it throughout the Muslim community. So now let's look at questions. All right. Before we get to questions, let me just reiterate one point. As a community, it's not just Muslim Skeptic, myself, the team who needs to be doing this work. Everyone needs to be sharing this responsibility. It's our children, my children, your families that are going to be affected by this. If we're just silent and we allow people like Ingrid Mattson to partner with these different organizations and teach and train imams, what's going to be the result? So think about that. You have to have a sense of duty. If you can't, you're not going to have the time necessarily to do research, but the least you can do is spread the information. Okay? 10 people. Okay, I'm going to share this article with 10 people. I'm going to share this report with 10 of my masjid board members, different masajid that I know. Get the word out and say, this is very serious. We have to be aware of this as a community. We have to know what's going on. That's the least that you can do. Okay? That's the least that you can do. And if you can do more, if you can look at other individuals, because this report mentions a lot of people without going in depth. Okay? But it's not haphazard. The people that are mentioned in this report, we mention for a reason. Okay? You can go and look in more depth and ask questions and do research. If you want to do that, ahlan wa sahlan, go ahead. Right? This is work that needs to be done, and alhamdulillah, Allah has given us the opportunity at Muslim Skeptic to do that, and we're trying to encourage people to do that. If you can't do it, then at least share. Okay? It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost you anything to share something. So let's look at some of these questions. So Nasheed Videos says we need an organization bringing awareness. That's one thing, but we need to follow up with solutions. Yeah, I absolutely agree. We need to follow up with solutions. What are the solutions? Okay. The first step is awareness. Because like I said, if more and more people are aware of the situation in the Muslim community, they're not going to allow this to happen on their watch. So speaking out goes very far, inshallah, in being a solution. But other things are needed as well, and we need organizations to work on this, and we need ulama, we need scholars, right? And people will say that, oh, Daniel in this report, he attacks so many scholars. Why does Daniel have a problem with scholars? This is nonsense, right? Who are the scholars that are sitting hand in hand, working hand in hand with Ingrid Mattson and Hart and inviting them? It's a very small number of people, actually. It's a very small number of these scholars. The vast majority have nothing to do with this garbage. And I work with many scholars, actually, scholars who are involved with this report. When I say Muslim Skeptic team, it involves scholars. They're not going to come out with their name. I'm not going to reveal who they are, but think about why that's the case right now. Why is that the case? Because there are these forces that are working very hard to make our lives miserable. Okay? When I was with an Islamic organization, okay, when I was with 2 Islamic organizations, right? And I put out the first report on Hart, actually. The first report on Hart that I put out, I was working at an Islamic organization. Hart and their associates called this organization trying to get me in trouble with my employer, my Muslim employer. And it caused issues for me with my employer. And this is supposedly was a Islamic traditional organization, but feminists have a lot of say. All they need to do is call you a misogynist. They just use that label. Daniel is a misogynist. Daniel is a bigot or a homophobe. And that goes a long way, unfortunately, with some of these institutes. So this is why I have been very careful and protective of mentioning names of the scholars that I work with. But you can just look at Muslim Skeptic Live. You can watch Muslim Skeptic Live. I have a whole knowledge series with scholars that I interview, and I cite different scholars and have interviews with them. They will promote my articles and so forth. So I'm not anti-scholar. In fact, I'm working closely with ulama. And all of these ulama are organizing. Okay? It's not going to be Muslim Skeptic website alone for long. Okay? They are organizing. There's going to be more content on social media, because the thing is that our traditional ulama are not necessarily on social media. That's the thing. They're not on social media, and they have to feed their families, and they have their own jobs. They're doing amazing work and much needed work to guide the community, to teach, to lead, to do guidance, counseling, all of these activities from our imams. They don't have time necessarily to have a social media channel like I do, okay, or like others do. They don't necessarily have the tech savvy to set a live stream up. But inshallah, that's going to change. The people who do have the resources, some of these celebrities, as you saw, like people like Ingrid Mattson are getting government funding. That's why a lot of their stuff is professional. Okay, they're getting funding from these different sources. Some of them very questionable, and so they can afford to do some of the things that they do on social media. But we're going to see more, inshallah. More ulama are going to come out, and they're going to say the same thing. And they're going to speak the haqq against these who are trying to spread fahisha and all of this nonsense. So solutions, that's one solution. Here's the thing. If you want to volunteer, okay, you have time, you can message me. Like you have audio visual capabilities, like you have time like 3 to 4 hours a week, and you can help an imam set up a live stream, or you can help an imam do some social media work, and this is a trustworthy imam that you know, then volunteer, help. Help him with that. Time is the most valuable resource, right, for these scholars. Because again, they're busy with so much. They don't have time to set everything up. They just need to sit in front of the camera and speak, right? And to specifically address these kinds of issues, then volunteer your time. You can do that. These are solutions. Yeah. And the thing is that as soon as, with sharing this report, as soon as people find out, and other scholars and ulama, when they find out about what Ingrid Mattson and co are doing, they're shocked. Okay, there's no imam that I have a connection with that sees this stuff and is not absolutely floored. Okay, so they're not just afraid. It's not like these imams and these scholars are afraid when they find out. Okay, just because your imam is not speaking out against Ingrid Mattson, it doesn't mean he's afraid of Ingrid Mattson. It just means that he's too busy and he doesn't probably know about Ingrid Mattson. It's your job to inform him. It's your job to inform him what these people are doing. So don't have su'a dhan of our ulama, don't have su'a dhan of our scholars. But I mean, this is the reality. The reality of situation of this incestuous network is that they are doing all kinds of fitna. They're creating all kinds of fitna for our imams and ulama. Okay, so this is the question from Fahim Abd-Allah. Feels like I can't donate anything to anyone anymore. No, you can. Like I said, the majority of the imams, the majority of the ulama are good, and they're doing good work. Just because you don't see them on social media does not mean that they are not doing a lot of great work and that they oppose this in the strongest terms. You need to find them and support them. Okay, super chat from Muti. Jazakallah khairan for this. He says, you have no idea how much we appreciate what you're doing. You have cleared a lot of confusions and have brought a lot of clarity in our thoughts. I appeal to everyone to support this cause. Barakallahu feek. I appreciate that, Akhi, for the generosity. And another super chat from Louise. Why haven't you started an organization that would unite the Muslims politically, economically, a khilafah, everyone making hijrah? What can I do to help? So that's a big question. So we do our best efforts to raise awareness. I have very limited abilities and means. I try to do what I can based on my training and my expertise, which I've mentioned many times is on secularism, liberalism, feminism, LGBT. So that's my role, but you should be asking, what's your role? What are you doing? What have you prepared for serving the cause of the Muslims? Always think in tangible terms. You can do a great deal, and I've already mentioned a lot of points like sharing this report, raising awareness, speaking out against feminist doctrine, educating yourself on what feminist doctrine really is. This may seem off topic, but how do you respond to someone who accepts anything to be allowed regardless of right, wrong, good or evil, harmful or not, but as long as it's consensual? So how does that make any sense? Like, if something is consensual, just because something is consensual doesn't mean that it's not harmful or it's not bad. And even liberals will acknowledge this. There are many kinds of consensual behavior that are actually horrifying. Incest is one example. Incestuous behavior, a brother and a sister, a brother and a brother, a father and whatever. This is all considered extremely harmful and disgusting, even though consent could be there. You could have an incestuous couple and they consent to that kind of behavior, but it's still wrong. And we all have the intuition that this is wrong behavior, it's harmful behavior, and it's disgusting behavior. So this idea of consent is actually not very meaningful at all. You can have many instances where there is great harm and consent, and the liberal establishment also will say that, yeah, this is something to be avoided. And then you'll have other examples where there is no consent, but there's also no harm. So why would it be wrong on a liberal basis? I'll give you an example. You have a fitting room in a department store, and someone installs a camera in the women's fitting room to spy on women changing their clothes. The women don't know about this, but the person, the peeping Tom who has installed the camera, he's deriving a lot of pleasure from peeping on naked women, but they don't know. They haven't consented to it. But is there any kind of physical harm that has taken place? Is there any kind of physical or issue that has harmed the women? No, right? There's nothing physical because they don't know about it. That video footage is not being spread. It's just being consumed by that one person, that one peeping Tom. So what is physically, right? Because these atheists and these liberals like to talk about physical things only. Everything has to be physical. There is no reality beyond the physical material world, they claim. So what is the physical harm of a camera peeping on women in the bathroom or in the changing room? There is nothing physical. So, but, and there is not consensual. So is consent this kind of metaphysical value that has nothing to do with the material world? Okay, fine. If you want to accept that, then you accept that. There can be other values like what God commands, what Allah commands to be right and wrong, or things that are disgusting because that's our nature. Human nature finds certain acts like incest or certain kinds of homosexual behaviors as they have an aversion to that naturally. So, okay, if we want to include those kinds of non-physical things in our moral calculation, fine. Okay, so this is how you would argue that point. That was a little off topic, but worth addressing. Okay, so Jazakumullahu khairan for everyone watching. One final appeal to make. Again, please read and share this report and don't stay silent. That's the worst thing that you can do. Speak out, spread the message. Muslim Skeptic, it's not just Ingrid Mattson and Hart, many different organizations that are involved in the same network. It's an incestuous network of people that support each other. We have to break the silence on social media specifically because, again, it's lack of information. As soon as the community finds out, as soon as imams find out, these people will have no place in the community, inshallah. And we have to have that husn al-dhan of our Muslim brothers and sisters, and we will work together to really clean up this issue. And we can take away and decrease the amount of shar, the amount of evil by doing this and cooperating and collaborating. So please keep me in your dua. And I make dua for myself and the community. May Allah protect us. May Allah protect our children and rid us from evil and fahisha and batil and from those who wear the mantle of scholarship, wear the mantle of religious authority, yet they are opening the door to all kinds of fahisha. Oh, I got a message here that I want to address before signing off for a couple. Someone said, how do I become Muslim? Zoe. So let me address that real quick. It's important. Zoe, may Allah guide you. We have the best wishes for you to become Muslim. It's very easy to become Muslim. All you have to do is make the declaration, the testimony of faith, the shahada, to declare that there is no God worthy of worship other than Allah. La ilaha illallah. You can replay this video. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. There is no, I testify and witness that there is no object worthy of worship except Allah. And Muhammad is his final messenger. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. So this is the testimony of faith, and you will enter Islam. And then, inshallah, you can find a mosque, masjid close by to you and start your journey. And we hope that you will do that, inshallah. Let's see. Okay, and Jazakallah khair. Everyone who gave super chats, I didn't address all of them, just out of time, but sorry. Okay. Some of you are asking questions that are too big to get into on this live stream at the end of it, but just message me on Facebook and I'll be looking out for your message and I will give you a response, inshallah. It might take a week or two because I'm traveling, but please just let me know. Some people are wanting to become Muslim and they have these questions. So I want to address those questions, but we're over 2 hours in this live stream. So again, Barakallahu feek for everything. And yeah, so Timothy, just message me. I'm looking out for your message and I will address your question and maybe we can talk about it one-on-one, inshallah. Okay, Barakallahu feekum. Please make dua and I'll catch you, inshallah, next week for another edition of Muslim Skeptic Live. Please forgive me if I said anything wrong, any mistakes I made, and anything good I said is from Allah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.